Now let's take a minute and talk about the power of the four prefix match types. Now this is available exclusively to Keyword Sniper Pro, and you're going to absolutely love this functionality, and it's going to totally make it even easier than it was before to come up with some killer good keywords that you can use in your campaigns. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually demonstrate this because I think it's the easiest way to explain it. I've put in the keyword iPhone. And then I've put in one prefix just to make this very simple to see. I've put in the prefix app just as a word. Now, unlike the suffix, which can really only go one direction, the prefix can build in a very unique way. And because of that, we give you four options in the search options section. You'll notice you have a drop down box. The first option is literal, the second option is expanding. The third option is literal expanding, and then literal floating. Now these don't in any way affect the suffixes, but they greatly affect the prefixes. Let's start with literal, and I'll see if I can walk you through exactly how each of these types work. And I do want to point one more thing out. There is some overlapping of these functions, so it really depends on how popular your term is. If you're in a very large market, like in this case the iPhone, you're going to get very good results for all four of the settings. So you want to actually just use all four of them probably, but in some smaller markets that won't be the case, and so you actually won't necessarily need to maybe use all four. And there's some very specific cases where you'll really only want to use the expanding feature, and I'll get into that in a next video as well. But let's start with literal. We've got our keyword iPhone, we've got our prefix app, and I'll go ahead and click start searching. I'll tell it yes, go ahead and add a space because I do want a space between the two. Now this part does work identical to the suffix. In other words, you could build parts of words onto an existing word. In this case, I want to treat them as two different words, so I do want a space. I'll click yes. We'll pull up the results here. And I'm just going to remove these first ones because that's just for the main keyword iPhone. So the first thing you notice is we have the word app in front of iPhone, and there's a space there, so app, iPhone, and then free is on the end. So actually it's building in both directions. So we got our prefix in. We didn't have any suffixes, so it just gave us the most popular keywords, and app, iPhone, free actually was the first one. You'll notice a couple things here. First of all, you notice in this case there aren't any words between our prefix and our seed keyword. Now that won't always be the case, but it's very often the case when you use the literal match type. Okay, so app iPhone free, app iPhone best, app iPhone review. And basically with literal, what you're telling is you're saying, Google, treat this as a word by itself. Don't put anything onto it. Just treat it all by itself, and then give me the keywords that are connected to that prefix, my seed keyword, and then what else comes after that. Okay, so that's literal. Let's go ahead and go over to expanding. Now, expanding works very much like our suffix works. You'll remember we called that the expanding suffix. Let's go ahead and do a search, and I'll clear the old ones out. And let's go ahead and just remove these first ones here. Now remember, these are just the seed keyword results. Okay, so you see what happened here. Our prefix was app, but because we selected expanding, it picked Apple, which is more popular than in a previous was just app iPhone free. So in this case, the most popular term that starts with app and has the word iPhone in it is Apple iPhone, which makes sense. You'll notice though, for the very first time, this is where we start to see the power of prefixes. The prefix was the first part of the keyword phrase. iPhone was at the end, and that gave us the word in between, so we didn't have to know that. Now that's very significant. It's very different than suffixes because you basically, Google will only return to you what you start with, and it'll go further to the right, but it won't ever give you words in between those two. With prefixes, that's not the case. You can see that here. We gave it app, it gave us for, and then gave us iPhone on the end, and we can see that at least in that instance there. Next, let's go to from expanding, so that's where it builds onto the prefix. Let's go to literal expanding. Let's go ahead and do a search with that. And again, I'll just remove these first ones here so we can just see it easily. Okay, so in this case, you see that it used our prefix as a literal word app, but then now we are specifically getting these words between our prefix and our seed keyword. So in this case, our prefix was app, it added store, and then gave us iPhone. So app development for iPhone, app tracker iPhone. So now we're getting all these great words that we didn't know that were between our prefix and our seed keyword. Lastly, let's go to literal floating, and we'll do a search on literal floating. And let's go ahead and just remove these first keywords here. And you'll notice now this is where we basically said treat our prefix as a literal word, but it doesn't have to appear at the beginning of the keyword phrase. So just give me the most popular keyword phrases where app is in the in the keyword phrase and iPhone's in the keyword phrase, but it doesn't matter if there's something in front of it. Now this is really powerful because now we have Google mobile app iPhone. Now we didn't know anything about Google and mobile in our as far as our initial search. We just basically said it had to have app and iPhone, and it added everything on front of that. So this is the power of prefixes that doesn't exist with suffixes, but it makes it extremely powerful. Now the beauty of Keyword Sniper Pro is you can use both at the same time. You can use prefixes and suffixes and build both direction. This literally means there isn't a keyword that you can't mine with this tool because you can go to the right or you can go to the left and you can pick the center. You can do so many different things with this feature, and you just need to basically at this point know the difference between them. If you need to watch this video again to kind of see what they are, that might be helpful. And also do remember to keep in mind that in markets that don't have very many searches, some of the results you get will overlap between these. And so you'll just need to filter for duplicates. It's not a big deal. But getting to understand these different prefix match types is extremely helpful, and it will really take your keyword research with Keyword Sniper Pro to an entirely new level.